Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I want to review Heretic, this movie I saw not too long ago, and it had some really interesting concepts in there, blending sort of what's real and what's not, sort of blending mystery, stagecraft, and beliefs. So it was a really interesting movie. It is one of the most thought-provoking movies I think I've ever seen, or at least it's high up on that list. And so in this movie, we have three characters. There's basically three characters. There are more people in the movie, but each of the others get extremely minimal screen time. So we have Mr. Reed, who of course is the sort of main character almost in this movie, and then we have Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton. These are really the only two other characters that get a story in this movie. There are a couple of other people, but they don't give much of a story, really. So we'll sort of dive into that later. So in this movie, they're both trying to evangelize, and in this movie, we sort of get a little bit of their beliefs, a little bit about what they think, and we can tell that Sister Barnes kind of has her own past. She doesn't really reveal much of it, but it's hinted toward the beginning, so we can sort of get just a tidbit of something will unravel later on as the movie progresses. And ultimately, as everyone saw in the trailer, Mr. Reed is one that opens the door to these two, invites them in, and their conversation is sort of the focal point of really the rest of the movie. And of course, they can't come in unless there's another adult woman, so he says, oh, my wife's home, and so she's just sleeping. So as they enter his home, he sort of engages with them in conversation of what they're talking about with Mormonism. And so he's bringing up different points. He's challenging them on a couple of different points he wants to make, sort of trying to see whether or not they truly believe what they believe. And the gist of it is he eventually creates this intense situation where it starts feeling a little bit more claustrophobic, where the door has this extreme lock. The power is going out. His wife is nowhere to be seen. And he walks away. And when they try to leave, because he's a creepy guy, that's the way his character's supposed to be. And it was played very extremely well. So as they try to leave, the door won't open, and there's not even a lock on it at all. And so here comes we'll just call it the fear factor for the rest of the movie. This is what makes it horror, is one of the small instances when they turn the corner to go where Mr. Reed had gone. One of the hallways, they see this shadow standing there, this figure, and they're calling out to Mr. Reed. He's not answering, and as they slowly approach it, they get closer. It's a statue. And so it's just those things like that it increases the suspense using product placement, basically, which I know is that's not really the correct use of the term, but having things placed in a certain area on set to create this sort of terror that really doesn't have anything to do with the story. I just find those sort of things interesting in movies like this, because it builds suspense without having some jump scare or just some disgusting, crazy looking monster. It doesn't have to have all that to be creepy, and that's what this movie does so effortlessly. And so as they do find Mr. Reed in this other room, this is where sort of it propels into the intense part of the conversation. He challenged a couple of little details of what they believe, but now in this room, he's using different ideologies where music is his example, where he takes one old song and finds basically renditions of it and compares it to modern song, which these are real songs he's demonstrating in the movie. And so it sort of gets you thinking, is that really true? Were they meant to be iterations? Were they meant to just take inspiration from it? Are they meant to be a copy? Is it a mistake on the newer artist's part where they just didn't catch that? And so it gets your wheels turning, gets the character's wheels turning, and he uses this music analogy to religion as well, where he compares Mormonism and Christianity and a couple of others, saying how they all go back to this one thing, and he's trying to pitch to them that they all come from one thing. All religions come from one thing, and he this is where we get his extreme points of view. And the thing about his character is Hugh Grant plays such a he does this part so well where he seems so convincing of it, but then at the end of this intense argument with him, basically, then they throw out their Sister Bourne, Sister Paxton, they throw out their facts that sort of challenges his facts and disproves some of what he's saying, but proves other parts of what he's saying. And so this whole conversational style is really interesting because, don't get me wrong, I love action movies. Action movies are fun, but a lot of the time it's just dumb fun. It's really, really hard for an action movie to be considered one of the greats. Gladiator is one of them. It's one of a few. But it's really hard for an action movie to compare to the greats like Jaws or Shawshank Redemption or any movies that are considered classics. So movies like this is what I really enjoy because it allows you to just take a step back. It allows you to just breathe, absorb everything that's happening, and get different emotions like intensity or being on the edge of your seat or actually genuinely getting scared by something that's not what you would find in a standard either horror or action blockbuster. And so I think that's what I found so fascinating, and that's why I was reeled in basically from the beginning, and that is what kept my interest from beginning to end, because it never goes off the deep end, it never goes off the rails, it never changes what it's doing, it never tries to be something else. This movie is, the trailer told you exactly what it's going to be, and that's what it is from beginning to end, with its own plot twists, but the plot twists don't go off the rails, or it's not dramatic, or it's not something so absurd that it doesn't feel like it fits within the movie. So in this conversation, as they're sort of challenging each other's religions, they want to leave. They tell him, we want to leave. This isn't good. They don't feel safe. They just want to go. And he says, okay, here are two doors. Well, they both lead to what looks like a basement. And he said, one of them will lead where you want to go. But he wants them to choose whether they believe their religion or don't believe their religion based off of the facts he tried to show them to get them to challenge their own beliefs. And so Sister Bourne convinces Sister Paxton that they're going to go through the belief door because they can tell that he's trying to play games with them. He's trying to create this psychological maze, and they're just not having it. Go through the door. Turns out the door locks behind them, and it's this one room. There's really nowhere to go. There's no way out. And eventually this old woman comes down the stairs from they don't know where yet. And Mr. Reed says this is a live in the flesh prophet of the Lord. And he's going to try to prove that she is going to die. They come back to life because it is a miracle, because she is chosen by God. And this sort of, obviously they're going to challenge this. And so he gives her some pie. She dies. They check her pulse. They check everything. They make sure she's very dead. And then someone knocks on the door. So Mr. Reed walks away. They're trying to scream. They're checking out the other hallways in this place. And they come backstairs when who was at the door leaves. Mr. Reed comes back and he says, all right, now it's time to prove that she's alive. And Paxton, Sister Paxton, she recognizes that the lady, when she had died, she fell over on the table. Her head was turned the other way, and so she moved. And to their surprise, the lady wakes up, and she's very much alive. And she's telling them she saw the other side. It's all fake. It's all saying it's not real. And so they're struggling to believe, well, is this really a prophet, and is she telling the truth, and is there some trick to how she survived? Did she really die? They don't know what's going on. And while Mr. Reed is trying to prove his point, he ends up killing Sister Barnes. He kills her saying she's going to come back, but then when she doesn't, he cuts into her arm and finds a birth control device that he at first thinks was some kind of microchip, and that affected her coming back. And so Sister Paxton is now realizing he is sort of staging some of his ideologies. And so she starts challenging everything and comes up with the conclusion that another woman had to have swapped with a prophet. So as she moves the table that's been in the center of the room, she finds a hatch, She goes down, finds the dead body of the first one. And so this is where the twists are coming in, because we're starting to realize, oh, everything is staged. Everything is turning out to be fake. Now she travels through these tunnels. She finds that he has multiple women prisoner, and these are supposedly the ones that are going to be prophets. There's some younger women, some older women, so it seems like when people go to evangelize at his doorstep, because he's the one that put in a request to hear more about this religion, so he's sort of luring people. And so now that we've confirmed he's not just a religious extremist, he is a psychopath. He is the villain now that he's just killed someone. Now she sort of finds little pieces that have connected through the movie. When they went to Miss Reed's place, their bike locks weren't in their jackets when they took them off, then found them later in the movie. So this bike lock is now seen at the door in these tunnels when she finds all these women. And she does end up stabbing him. She runs. She goes back to the room. She can't find a way out yet. And he eventually gets back there somehow and stabs her too. So as he's getting ready to watch her die, Sister Barnes has her, literally some of her last breaths. She gets up and was able to stab him and finish him off for good. So now he's dead. Barnes is dead. And we get this sort of anticlimactic ending. Not anticlimactic, but it's not a ending full of answers. Sister Paxton does get out of the place. She does find these fields. She finds the road. She's bleeding, so we assume she's going to survive, but we don't know. And at the end of the day, we see that what Mr. Reed had proposed was all proved to be fake. But does Sister Paxton really still believe her belief, or did he just prove it? And so those are the questions that was really interesting seeing thrown around this movie. And as far as the director's concerned, this movie isn't targeted to try to make you believe one way versus another. This was meant to get people thinking, which I think is a really interesting concept. It's cool to challenge that, to have these mature conversations about it. And I thought it was a really neat concept because it doesn't try to disprove for real. It didn't try to confirm it didn't try to confirm one religion being false, and it didn't confirm another to be true. This movie was a collection of a few characters challenging each other's beliefs, because at the end of the day, religion is faith-based. It isn't proof-based. Now, some of the points he brought up is every religion, people have their own proof that it is the only one that's true. And so, whether you have a belief system or not, this movie has an incredible, thought-provoking, well-written script that, at the very least, if you're not a religious person already, might make you, at very least, question it a little bit. So I found it extremely interesting, guys. I really love this movie a lot. It's from the A24 studio, which is one of the most consistent, solid studios out there. This movie, A24 does it again. It's consistently solid. So I liked it a lot. This is definitely one I'll be buying when it comes to physical media. If you saw it, let me know. I really want to hear more people talking about it. This one is not going to make blockbuster records, so you're not going to hear everyone talking about it. But those who have, let me know in the comments. I really want to hear people's thoughts about this. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, watching the video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all next time.